As chapter 8 opens, we get quite a contrast in tone right off the bat. It's nice weather, almost like June, and she recalls fond memories of the month of June. But then suddenly we're brought back into the current reality, the terrible reality. She can't stay out of time very long. There are three bodies hanging on the wall. One is a Catholic priest, so either this sect hates Catholics, or this Catholic priest has done something similar to the ones who have committed gender treachery and who are homosexual. And this, of course, recalls, because they're from the Guardians, this recalls the homosexual culture within prisons or like military like Sparta. Remember that the Guardians, they don't have access to female companionship of any kind, so that plays a role here. At any rate, the significance about this passage is that we learn more about Glenn. She hesitates at the wall, often apparently. Walking back, Glenn says, it's a beautiful May Day. May Day is a call for help in a plane that's going down. It comes, as the book says, from the French Madaise. Yeah, I'm terrible at, okay. Help me, in other words. The fact that Glenn has said May Day will be pretty important later. We also learn about econo-wives here. They do everything in the household. They wear multicolored dresses. They're obviously from the lower classes, no connections. They're not married to commanders or anyone of importance. They do housework and they try to have babies. If the babies, we find out, die in the womb, they're buried in a jar. If they die at birth, they have the privilege of being given a box. Unbabies, we find out, are babies with defects. Later, they are referred to as shredders, which is pretty gross. From this section, we wonder what happens when an econo-wife successfully has a baby. Are they then forced to become handmaids? Good question. I don't know yet. It's also interesting that these econo-wives envy the handmaids. It must really be terrible to be an econo-wife. There's irony in the saying, under his eye, on page 45. Supposedly, it's a good thing to be under God's eye. That's why they have the saying, since he's all loving and such. However, it's the eyes that they're really under. That's not a good thing, since eyes are the secret police. There's a nice bit of imagery at the top of 45 as well. The mirror image of the two handmaids walking away from each other. It's a nice image, but it also shows they have no individuality or freedom. Also at the top of 45, there's a good amount of symbolism. I'll talk about the whirlwind and behemoth later, but let's concentrate on the tulips. Offred has just seen Nick doing something manly. Suddenly the tulips are more red. Remember what red can symbolize. It can symbolize love and passion, etc. So, Offred passes by Serena Joy, and she conveys her displeasure of Serena Joy. She was fake in the earlier times on TV. Her name had even been Pam. But she took the pseudonym Serena Joy for television. At some point, she stopped selling products and she started preaching the idea that women should stay home and not go to work. These are great antithetical lines here from page 46. She doesn't make speeches anymore. She's speechless. The whole paragraph is great. It sums up the irony of Serena Joy's situation. She got what she asked for. And then there's great imagery with Serena Joy beside the tulips. Everything about Serena Joy is old and decrepit. She's using a cane. Her face is sinking in. And the metaphors used bring the above point back home. She's sunk to a low place in life compared to her old life, and that's what her face has done too. Fred is reminded by the appearance of Aunt Lydia in her head that she should be sympathetic with the housewives. But she knows Aunt Lydia was fake, even with, or especially because of her religious references. Forgive me, Lord, for they know not what they do. This is a reference to Jesus being crucified on the cross. Not an exact parallel. That reference, by the way, is from Luke 23:34, from the Gospel of Luke, which is, of course, of Fred's husband. There's also nice symbolism when Aunt Lydia offers her hands. It's an offering and an invitation to give. An offering of what? An offering of acceptance or for a good future, but her hands are empty. The future is in their hands because they will produce the next generation, but there's no good future for them. Her hands are empty, so it's more like they have to give up an offering of sacrifice. By the way, in Christian churches, an offering is passed around to the church congregation, and you put money in it in a little plate so that pays for the pastor's salary and helps upkeep of the whole church. Anyway, on page 47, she's reminded again of the past, cooking and mothers, of what it's supposed to remind her of, that smell of yeast. She feels the memory as treacherous, recalling the memory of the gender treacherers. That's always on their minds. That's how it is with an oppressed people. It's a no-no. This makes her think how a sharp knife is attractive because it can be used, of course, for suicide. Fred envies the work of the Marthas. The Marthas envy the handmaids. Everyone envies someone in the system, perhaps the way that children do. Once again, that idea of infantilization. Alfred is further infantilized by Rita when she says bath day to her as if she were a small child. There are other reminders of the time before. Cora's earring holes grown over, the dish towels that were symbolically blue and white, but they're not symbolically blue and white. It's okay that they're not. In other words, that reminds her of a time when colors didn't matter. Things could be any color. Another important point from this section, Offred might have found a friend in Cora. That may be important later. So the chapter ends as the commander behaves oddly, out of custom. He's given Offred some sort of indecipherable signal. What does he want? And it may seem like perhaps Fred is going to get a little bit of power, but we'll see.